Okay, no, today's the 9th of October 2017 and I'm having hassle from Santander simply because they put me overdrawn. I didn't realise because it's not my main account, and then they've bombarded me with letters from two, I think one's from Bradford and another one's from Glasgow, to which I'm going to be sending these in the post. There's the Glasgow one, and that's what I'm putting on the front. It's going to be sent in the post, and that's on the back of the envelope. And then there's that one I'm going to be hand delivering, which is where I went to complain about the scam, the fractional reserve lending, that they make money out of thin air, and then they're trying to charge me. I've got £700 sat in an account that belongs to my son, that was left to him, and they're trying to charge me because they put me overdrawn. And it went on for a couple of months. It was in the over 200 odd quid. It was ridiculous. Oh, and as a gesture of goodwill, we're going to refund a month. They can cocoa. Absolutely unbelievable, these rip-off merchants. So this is you, Santander, you rip-off scam merchants. And then let's have a look what else we got. Promissory notes. Everybody needs to look at what exactly a promissory note is, and when you do, you'll realise your mortgage has already been cashed in and paid off. You don't owe these buggers anything. It's that simple. Look into it, people. You're being scammed on a mass scale by these banks, and it's not just Santander, it's everyone. Why? Because they're all owned by the same person, the Rothschilds. So you're being scammed by the banks, left, right and centre, and they make money out of thin air. Promissory notes, fractional reserve lending. Look into it. Come over here to this YouTube channel, and this is just over a 2-hour documentary. It's exactly on the money what's going on, how we're being ripped off by the government, the banks. I'll play this short clip. It'll explain exactly what a promissory note is. So here we go.
The three functions of money are distinguished as 1. A store of value or purchasing power, the ability of an item to hold value over time. 2. A medium of exchange. Money serves as a medium of exchange, i.e. an asset that the sellers will accept as payment. A medium of exchange allows people to eliminate the use of barter. 3. A unit of accounting, a way of placing a specific price on economical goods and services. As a unit of accounting, the monetary unit is used to measure the value of goods and services relative to other goods and services. Money in its modern form arose from goldsmiths who retained gold and other precious metals in their safes, and in exchange they gave certificates to prove the deposits. People then started to exchange the certificates for goods and services. And the goldsmiths very quickly realized they could make a lot of money out of just looking after other people's valuable goods. They're now no longer a goldsmith, but running a deposit facility, took in gold and other precious metals as deposit, and issued deposit notes that the public used as money, backed by the gold in the deposit facility's safe. The goldsmith soon realized that very few people actually redeemed the gold, and so he started to give out loans in the form of deposit notes, knowing that he only needed around 10% of actual gold in his safe, as that would cover, even on a busy day, the amount of people exchanging certificates for gold. The deposit facility would then require the loan repaid plus interest, and this was the birth of modern banking. Through the years, money has been backed by, given a store of value by the silver standard and gold standard, meaning you could redeem the note for gold just like it says on this US note here, if you so required. On the 21st of September 1931, the gold standard was abolished in the UK, and on the 13th of August 1971 in the United States. Since 1971, the majority of the planet now use fiat currency. Fiat currency is money backed by nothing, and has no value. It only has value because it's decreed as such by the government, and more importantly, we all believe it has value. The only entities that have the legal authority to create money are the Treasury and the banks, and they create it out of nothing. Martin Wolf, the Financial Times chief economic commentator, said this: only 3% of money is physical and 97% is electronic, and this electronic money is completely controlled by the banks. To repeat again, the banks create money out of nothing and then lend it to you and ask you to work using the most precious commodity on the planet, your human energy, to pay back the loan plus interest. Money is essentially a claim on human labor and can also be defined as debt. A debt is created for you to pay back. So why don't the banks just print money and get rich that way? Well, because they need you. They need you to create a promissory note in the form of an agreement. A promissory note is a species of money, and when you complete and sign the agreement, the document now has value, just like a banknote. So, at the heart of money lending is a massive fraud. You create the money with the authority of your signature and the creation of a promissory note that the banks then securitize, making them more money. Then the bank makes you believe you have borrowed the money and requires you to pay it back plus interest. Please remember this when you get to the section about debt later on in this documentary. During this documentary, you will hear people talk about promissory notes and bills of exchange. A promissory note is a promise to pay and is created by you, the debtor, and a bill of exchange is an order to pay and is created by the creditor, and they both have value.
The way I try and explain the whole crux of the financial system is what I normally do when I'm doing a talk. I have a little bag of marbles, and I have 10 marbles in there if I haven't lost one of them. And so what I do, I sort of get the marbles out, show everyone, right, 10 marbles, put them back in the bag. I say, right, is there anyone here that can get 11 marbles out of this bag? And they're all looking at me like I'm mad. I say, well, that's how the banking system works. It's absolutely crazy, because what they do, they create a certain amount of money, but then they want more back. But hang on, that interest that they want more back doesn't exist. It can never exist. So two things have to happen as a result. One thing, the supply of money, or marbles, whatever we're talking about, has to increase. Not only does it increase, it has to increase exponentially. More on top and more. So it's basically, the curve is going up and up and up and up. The other thing that happens is people are always, it's like musical chairs. You know, if we all stand up and dance and then we all sit down, but a chair is taken away, somebody is going to end up on the floor. Somebody can't find that money to pay back because that money does not does not exist, and this creates the poverty and crazy competition and not enough to go around. And this is the biggest problem with fractional reserve banking.
When you think about it, they don't teach us at school anything about money.
I mean, money's about the most important thing in this society. Why don't they teach us anything about it? They can't. It's a confidence trick, yeah, you know, and it's 180 degrees from the way we think of it. You know, we think that money comes from somebody else, but it actually comes from us. You know, when you get a loan, they present you with a loan agreement, yeah. What do you think that loan agreement is? It's a promissory note. I promise to pay back 3 times the amount if it's a mortgage, yeah. You know, so but what they do with that promissory note, they monetize it. They put it into an account and cash it. And now they give you that money and say, now you have to pay it back to us. But you created that money. You know, it's your promissory note. You created that money. So transaction's over with. You don't have to pay them back because they didn't do anything. They just went, thank you very much, and here you go.
Fundamentally, a promissory note is a promise to pay. Now, if I was going to give you a promissory note for 2 dozen eggs, that means here's an IOU that I owe you, 2 dozen eggs. Now, it could be on demand, or it could be at a set time in the future. If it was on demand, you would be within your right to say, John, look, anyway, here's a promissory note. It says on demand, I want 2 dozen eggs. So I said, all right, look, I haven't got on me. I'll pop over the shop and get you your eggs. Here we go. There we go. And this is what we did originally when promissory notes started out, was that we used them to make a promise that, because, I've got like all these pounds of gold, right, and I want them stored safely. And I want to be able to trade that gold, but without the hassle of carrying it around. So what I do, I go to the bank and they give us a promissory note. So I've got this promise to pay. So I can then take it somewhere else and say, look, I've got £2 of, £2 of gold here, or silver, or whatever it is. This is how it started out. Now, at no time have promissory notes been, outlawed or taken away. And this is how big corporations actually trade with each other, with promissory notes. And in their memorandum or articles of association, when they set up their businesses, a lot of them will state within their documents that they will take promissory notes. Now, the problem is, of course, that the actual Bank of England and our government, working with the banks, have taken away all the value to the promissory notes which are used as our currency. So now the promise to pay £1, well, £1 of what? It's not £1 of anything. It's just, it's now become like monopoly money. This is back to the analogy with monopoly. It's not worth anything. So basically it's just a piece of paper. So what we do, we can actually say, well, here's a promissory note for £1,000. I want to swap it for your promissory note, or put it into my bank account and credit my bank account with £1,000. Now, we spoke to a bank manager and we said to the bank manager, could you tell me what would happen if I came to your branch with a promissory note for £1,000? Would you have to accept it? And his words were, yes, of course I would. It's law. So you're going to accept a promissory note? Of course. No, I'm not going to accept it, but by law I have to. So this is a bank manager that knew the law. He also knew the difference between a bill of exchange and a promissory note.
So there you go, that was explained exactly what a promissory note is. You get a loan or a mortgage, you sign for it, they abracadabra and put the money in your account or in another brethren's account, another brother account, like the solicitors, and then you're expected to pay 3.5 times the amount back that's already been cashed. It's nothing but a massive con. Now, this is a bit about everything really. JFK to 9/11, everything's a rich man's trick. And this gentleman I've emailed a few times, spoken to, very, very clever, researched a lot, and it's put this documentary together for just about 3.5 hours. when I first put it on, I thought I'll give it half hour, see what it's like. I think I've watched it 5 or 6 times because there's that much to take in, and it's brilliant. Let's listen to a little bit.
This man was one of America's first industrial giants, and like the Rockefellers in oil and the Carnegies in steel, he got his start by borrowing money from the Rothschilds, of whom we'll hear more later, to create a monopoly for his own business, which was railroads. He was the 19th century railroad king. It was a monopoly which wouldn't be allowed today, and it helped in turn to create the Rockefeller oil monopoly. Now this gave America's first industrial giants colossal power. These were the first people in human history, we mustn't forget, whose businesses were worth more than most countries. People whose fortunes dwarfed anything that the Caesars or the Tudors or the Medici ever dreamed of. So, being greedy, they used this power to engage in price fixing. Naturally, they formed a cartel. Their attitude was that they could charge whatever they liked for steel and oil and transporting goods on the railways. They knew that all American business was dependent on them, and they'd made sure there was no competition. So they could ignore market forces and charge pretty much whatever they liked. Now this naturally caused resentment, and it's very interesting that the press at that time started calling these first Illuminati bankers and industrialists robber barons. Of course, once these fortunes began to be made, others naturally tried to get in on the act. One who succeeded was J.P. Morgan, who became a private banker during this period. But modern critics have discovered that far from being the richest man in America everyone thought he was, it turned out upon his death that Morgan actually only owned 17% of Morgan Bank, and that like so many others he was simply a front for the Rothschild family.
There we go, and that is exactly what it is across the board. And then it spreads out to the insurance companies are owned by the banks, which again you're going to know the Rothschilds are going to own all these. So what he's just said, it's no different then to what it is now. We're being all had off by these industrialists. It's been going on for decades. One lie after another, which eventually becomes the truth. And I'll go back to that other video, because there's a clip at the very end. It's here it is. He's an ex-policeman. Play it from there.
And can't escape that construct, and it gets worse day in, day out. They want a way out.
Ignorance is our fault. Not being up to speed with what's going on is our responsibility. We're giving our power away to people who are using it against us. People need to understand. People need to wake up to what's really, really going on before it's too late, and stop looking at the mainstream media, stop looking at the mainstream newspapers, start looking at some information that's real and is relevant, because otherwise we're all going to be microchipped, we're all going to be controlled. We can barely do anything now, having to ask the government for permission to protest against the government. Our freedoms are being taken away by the day, and people are not noticing because they're being distracted with other things, from religions, from TVs, from celebrity gossip. We need to be adult about it, we need to open our eyes, and we need to really, really see what's happening. Otherwise we're going to be in the middle of this new world order that's complete one system of control, and we're all just going to be barcodes, and that's the way it's going, and that is the true reality of the world that we're living in at the moment.
5 years ago, when I was looking for letters to actually send to the banks, there was nothing on the internet.
And that sums it up. That's exactly what's going on. People need to wake up, stop being stupid, saying everything's a conspiracy theory. Otherwise, that is exactly what's going to happen to us all. These banks are controlling everything, and who's going to enforce the microchips? The banks. Who's scamming everybody? Right, left and centre. The banks. I mean, these are trying to rip me off over 80 odd pounds. It's utterly ridiculous. You should be utterly ashamed, Santander. So, I'll leave links to all these videos in the description. When you've got a spare few hours, watch them. They're very good. This is what's happening today. And that one, JFK to 9/11. Again, it's a long video, but very in depth, and it brings it all together brilliantly. And then this was the letter all three branches of Santander got. This one got delivered by hand, and then I sent the others by recorded delivery. And I got this template from Get Out of Debt Free. I'll send you the put the link in the description for this as well. But all as I had to do was put my name in, address, and my account number. Well, there it is, my account number. It's all well written out, and just put my name in there again. So that's what I sent them. So look at the, well, here we are. This is where I got it from. I think there's a section somewhere where you download the ebook. There, I think that's it. 3-letter process. It's in there, so you can download the ebook if you need it yourself. And then just going back to the policeman, where he said everybody's distracted. This is where all these false flags come in, that they keep causing raids, cash machines getting broken into and smashed up, stolen. They are causing that as a false flag to introduce these microchips that this gentleman mentioned. And then we've got more false flags where cars or vans are being driven into people. That's another false flag to get rid of you in control of a car. It'll be not driverless cars, but no, you won't be in control of your car. So that's the way all these false flags are working. That's the way they work, to cause a diversion, and then they offer you the cure, microchip, because of the constant robberies of cash machines, and then AIs or robots controlling your car. So you'll be not in control of anything. Microchip in your body. So everybody needs to wake up and stop treating everything as though it's a conspiracy theory, because it's not. Do some research. Look into those promissory notes and the fractional reserve lending, because that all goes back to the Titanic. When that got sunk, that was the birth of the Federal Reserve. The Rothschilds introduced the Federal Reserve System because there were three gentlemen on there that were opposed to the Federal Reserve. At the minute I can't think of the names, because this video wasn't about that. but they were like Bill Gates will say, George Bush, these types of people, 3 very rich, wealthy people on the Titanic, and it sunk. And then the birth of the Federal Reserve. So again, another false flag. Of course, they claimed off the insurance without a doubt. The double bubble everything, these people. So, and this is where all this is stemmed from. This fractional reserve lending from the Federal Reserve.